This is Superyacht News. In association with Go Earth, navigating boat buyers to better deals. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel with me, Sisman, a 25-year veteran of the maritime industry. We're going to go into the first news story, and this is about motor yacht fee. Now you might remember fee from previous stories that we've done over the years since 2022. So when the sanctions started, I tried my best to explain the differences between arrested and detained and seized, and the fact that arrested can be attributed to a vessel, not just the person. We went through that in depth over that time. The detention of fee in London has never been described as arrest or as seizure, at least by the government, and that is reasons which will become clear as we go through the story, let's put it that way. So fee has actually been detained with a movement restriction order since the vessel was boarded in 2022 by the National Crime Agency. The order effectively leaves the owner in control of the vessel, in terms of crewing it, in terms of maintenance, but he's not allowed to move the vessel out of Canary Wharf. Now, he's in control of it in terms of maintenance. This is something that came up in the court case, but clearly he's limited in what he can do there because it's not able to get to a shipyard, and Canary Wharf doesn't have the facilities to maintain that vessel properly. The vessel's been there for 3 years now, and we got the last footage we had was actually from December 2024, which I'll show you right now. And the vessel is looking decrepit, it's looking decayed. If any of the people from Benetti are watching, this is what happens with any yacht, as we said to you recently, is not a reflection of Royal Husband in this case, as it's not a reflection on Benetti if a vessel is left without proper maintenance for long periods of time. Look at the state of fee right now. There's a lot of cages on there and scaffolding and all kinds of stuff. The captain describes the vessel as having hull degradation, amongst other things. He was speaking to Boat International, the captain, Guy Booth, his name is. He's declined to actually talk to us in the past, but he says that the yacht has suffered hull degradation, and also he's had to deal with intruders, people who've actually climbed onto the vessel. Now, in terms of the court case, the appeal was held. It was heard by the Supreme Court, the United Kingdom Supreme Court. We have one too. And it was filed earlier this year, January, I believe it was. And it was filed by the legal owners. Obviously these yachts are owned by companies. They're not owned by an individual. They're not, it's not like a pink slip with a guy's name on it. It's a company, Dalston Projects Limited. And the beneficial owner has been named in the court papers as Sergei Naumenko. So the lawyers representing Dalston Projects Limited argued that the owner was not connected to Putin or the Russian regime, and they pointed out that despite no doubt a lot of searching, the UK government has been unable to find any reason to add the owner to the sanctions list. He's also not been sanctioned by the EU or the US. The Secretary for Transport lawyers said that the vessel was not seized and that the owner was free to use the vessel, as I said earlier, and also he could sell the vessel to someone not connected with Russia, and the yacht detention would end. The government's argument in this case is that the owner could use the yacht to charter, and by doing so, the money could reach Russia to help fund the war effort, which I think is a stretch. As far as I know, he doesn't charter his other vessels. So that's unlikely to happen, although that's their theory. Captain Booth, again speaking to Boat International, said that the outcome was anticipated and said they will be continuing to challenge the decision and will be approaching the European Convention of Human Rights without delay. All right, we'll move on to our next story. This is about the yacht Royal Romance. The vessel has been in Split, in the port in Split, which is a city in Croatia. It's been there for about a year now, but the vessel left this morning heading towards Trogir, which is where the vessel was before it headed to Split. Now, the only reason I can think that it's left the military base that it was in and headed up there is because Trogir has a shipyard in it, and it may be going there for some essential works. Now, the history of Royal Romance, if you've been watching the channel a long time, you'll know we've done a lot of videos about this over the years. But the vessel originally was owned by Viktor Medvedchuk. He was a politician and lawyer in Ukraine. He's Ukrainian. He was also the leader of the opposition party. He was arrested for high treason and was awaiting court when the Russians invaded Ukraine. At one point, he actually escaped and was recaptured. And then he was handed over to Russia in a prisoner exchange. That shows you how friendly he was with Russia. He was handed over to Russia in a prisoner exchange, and then he's been there since. So he's been basically deported from his own country. But he has been trying to get his yacht back ever since. Now, the Croatians seized the vessel on behalf of Ukraine, and they said that they would give it to Ukraine so they could sell it. However, they gave them a 2-year time frame to file the appropriate papers with an indictment against Medvedchuk, which they didn't do in 2 years. I think there might have been some corruption there within that. The ARMA, which is ARMA, which is the government department there that deals with this kind of thing. They alluded to it in a post that they posted on their Telegram page a while ago, and they've replaced that person with somebody else. However, the vessel, the papers were not put through in time, and effectively that seizure was over. However, because Medvedchuk is sanctioned by the EU, and his wife is as well, the vessel was still not allowed to leave, and it was moved from Trogir down to Split, the military base in Split. Yeah, so the vessel anyway has left Split, which is interesting, and gone back to Trogir. What led up to the vessel moving to Split was 7 Russian nationals who boarded the yacht in Trogir were arrested by Croatian authorities and detained. We believe that they were trying to actually get that vessel, they were trying to sail the vessel out of Croatia. We can't confirm that, though. We don't have concrete evidence to say that that is the case. So I'm sure it will be heavily guarded when it goes. Right, we'll move on to our next story now. We've got a correction from our last video, actually. We talked about the yacht Attila in the last video, and we said that the vessel had been fined, or the owner had been fined €200,000 for leaving after running aground before having a refloating plan and having a hull inspection done. That was actually incorrect. The €200,000 is like a deposit, a bond, if you like, and that was to allow the vessel to leave. But there's a court case upcoming which they have to attend. Now we got a comment on the last video said that Attila has not been fined €200,000. It is a security, effectively a bail bond, in lieu of the forthcoming court hearing, enabling the yacht to leave the port where it had been detained. So we looked into that, and that is actually the case. So there will be an upcoming court case now. So that means that most likely the fine that the yacht gets could be much higher than €200,000, right? So we'll obviously bring you information on that when it comes. But what I wanted to talk about was a lot of the comments that were generated from that video. A lot of people saying that €200,000 is nothing to a guy who can afford a $70 million yacht. And yeah, I understand what you're saying. It is not it's not a significant amount in terms of the value of the yacht being 70 million, right? But it is not an insignificant amount to a person of that wealth. And obviously to us, it's a massive amount, right? But what I can tell you from my own experience in the yachting industry and working for a lot of very rich people is they do not like to pay money for things that they don't need to pay, right? I had one boss, an owner of a yacht, who was worth at the time between $10 and $12 billion. And he used to complain all the time about the cost of internet. It was $5,000 a month at the time. And he used to complain about it all the time. So whenever he left the vessel, we had to slow down our internet speed to reduce the monthly cost. So he bought this yacht, which was, over $200 million, and he would spend money on whatever he wanted to spend his money on, right? But when it came to fees for things that he wasn't really that concerned about, he didn't want to pay it. And I would say that the owner of this yacht, regardless of how wealthy he is, will not be happy that he's received a €200,000 fine, if it was indeed a fine, which obviously it wasn't, it was a bond. But if he was to get a fine in that ballpark or more, he will be not happy about that, right? Now, will he earn more from his vessel chartering in that time? Yes, and that will offset that amount, right? Also, the fine has to be within reason of what the offence was, right? So you can't say, oh, well, he's worth 70 million. He's got a yacht for 70 million, so we'll fine him $50 million, right? Because he grounded it. It has to be commensurate with what happened, right? So that's why the fine will be where it is. And like I said in the last video, listen to the authorities, because a €200,000 fine is still a lot of money to somebody who's very wealthy, especially when it's not something they want to pay. It's not like they're buying a new jacuzzi with it or something like that, which then they don't mind paying. Anyway, we've got one more thing before I go. In Friday's video, we did, in the yacht spot, we did a mystery yacht thing at the end. And then on Monday, I actually forgot to tell you the name of that yacht. As far as I can tell from the comments, nobody guessed. And unsurprisingly, because it's brand new and it hasn't even been named yet, it was heading for final fitting. And it was on a transport. I don't know whether anybody noticed, but the name of the transport vessel was Hebo. Hebo.eu, the same company that has those platforms that were down in Sicily when we were filming the Bayesian. Anyway, I'll put the footage on screen so you can see it here. The project, this vessel was actually named Project Y726, which is a catchy name, right? And this was going through Rotterdam to final fitting. And the yacht is actually the new dream boat for Arthur Blank. It's his old, with inverted commas, yacht. It was a 90-meter or 300-foot dream boat, also named Dreamboat, right? We don't know if this, we assume this one will be called Dreamboat also. But that yacht was only delivered in 2019, and now he already has a replacement yacht for that. So the build of this yacht must have started right around delivery time for his previous yacht. Now, the yacht specs for this new one, 111 meters or 365 feet, built by Ocean Co., currently known as, like I said, Y726. The yacht can carry, apparently, 28 guests with a crew of 34. 28 guests, that's a lot. I know you probably think, if it's the first time watching the channel, you probably think that's not many for such a big vessel. But normally, a vessel of 3,000 gross tons, it can carry a maximum of 12 guests. So 28 guests puts it into a whole new category in terms of regulations, called the Large Yacht Code Part 2, or Part B, sorry. And it basically means it's almost like a cruise ship in the regulations. But this new vessel actually, even though it's 111 meters versus the old one of 90 meters, the new one is actually 50% larger in terms of gross tonnage. The old one was 2,950 gross tons, and the new one is 4,550. So almost 50% larger in gross tonnage than the previous vessel. Like I said, it's owned by Arthur Blank. Now, you might not know who he is, especially if you're not American. If you are American, you probably know that he owns the NFL team, the Atlanta Falcons, and the soccer, or football to everyone else, team, the Atlanta United. The other thing you might not know about him is he is the co-founder of Home Depot, what the Americans call Home Depot. We would probably say Depot if it was in the UK. And that's the source of his wealth, or his original wealth, should I say. And now what's interesting about this is he's taken delivery of this new yacht this year, and he's 82 years old. I think he beats Joe Lewis took delivery of his new yacht Aviva when he was 80. So he's 2 years older when he takes delivery. So maybe we'll do a list of oldest people to receive a new yacht or to buy a new yacht. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Be sure to check us out on patreon.com/eSysman. We just did a video today, actually, about some of this information and some other information that's not included in this video. And we've done loads of videos on there. We do loads of videos behind the scenes stuff as well. So check us out, patreon.com/eSysman. And if you've got any information for us or any videos or anything like that, be sure to send it through the links in the ticker here. You don't need an account for WeTransfer. You just click on that link, which is in the description, and it will take you straight there. It's in every video has the link to WeTransfer. So we still get a lot of emails and messages saying, how do I send stuff to you? That's how you do it. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching. Please be sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for future notifications. We are coming up to 330,000 subscribers now. We're like 80 away or something like that. So it would be great to hit 330 soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.